Okay, folks. As usual, today we will talk about the self-sovereign identity and the ownership and all of the things. If you're following my channel for a long time, you could notice the shift for the last year because you know I'm talking quite long, for 5 years about the different topics. I still have some views on my Ukrainian folks that watching my videos about the tea, but it's not a topic for now. At some point I switched to the general technical topics, and I was hooked to the self-sovereign identity and tried to explain what self-sovereign is, how self-sovereign identity works with some foundational architecture topics like privacy by design, local fast architecture, the laws of identity, and all other things. And I still believe that there's a good building blocks for any kind of applications that have respect to the users. And the last year, I'm working at my kin full time, and so it's transformed my vision about the self-sovereign identity and sovereign data in general. Because it's not just because I finally get the chance to use all my knowledge in a self-sovereign space and go deeper with the local first architecture and build a local first application and so on. That actually it was quite interesting experience for me because local first talk about the ownership mainly. So they really keen to make the sovereign data and give the ownership of the data together with the ownership of compute backs to user. So the local first and SSI, they share the common principles, beliefs, and the big part of philosophy. And maybe you have seen my article and my videos where I said that don't sell the SSI itself. So because it's not working, you need to solve the real problem of the user with the instruments and principles that SSI offer. But SSI as a product was the horrible mistake and horrible idea. And today, my main thinking process is more about is ownership and sovereign data actually need the identity? Because identity is a huge part of SSI, and it's even in abbreviation the self-sovereign identity. But you need the identity when you need to interact with other people, when you need to model the credential exchanges and all this SSI triangle of verifier, issuer, and all other things really make sense, because then you need to identify yourself to take a part in a data exchange or some kind of interactions, and then you need to prove that data is yours. So you need to prove that somebody told something about you, and then identity is the core, for sure, of the technology, and identity is necessary. But it's not always true, because, for example, if you will take one of the most popular local fast app for the note taking, the Obsidian, you simply doesn't have the login until you will decide to use the sync or publishing feature. So we collect the data, we own the data, we even could own the huge, massive amount of data without the need of the identity, because it's our sovereign data, it's data for us, and we use it. And we will need identity in a point where we want to take the fraction of the data and give it to somebody with the notion that this data was from us. And actually, it's the first prerequisite where we really need to sign the data. So say that this data is from Volodya. So and it's mean that it's yet another talk that I made on DICE conference, that we have a lot of sovereign data formats that are beyond on the verifiable credentials. And verifiable credentials, it's just one of the building blocks and one of the type of data that user need. So if you don't need the identity, what we need then? And it will be about the ownership and sovereignty. That you have all the tools, you have all the possibilities to take this data and get the value of this data. And it's getting closer to the data manifesto and protocol based applications where we say that we want to separate the data from the application. We want to have a data in a format that user could work outside of the application, get the meaning, get any kind of value, change the purpose of the data, and all other things. So it's more about the interoperability, ownership, and you know, possibility of repurpose the data. And for me, one of the biggest available assets beyond the verifiable credentials for the user, actually, especially in our app, is the knowledge graphs or the personal knowledge graphs. You could see in my channel that I'm obsessed with personal knowledge graphs, and I talk about the personal knowledge graph for a long time because the personal knowledge graph, they extremely good in representing the semantic memory for the AI powered applications. The personal knowledge graph is really good uh, data structure that actually could compress a lot of information because they keep the entity stable, they create the new relations between the entity, and they open the huge possibility to do the graph oriented machine learning to run a lot of algorithms like link prediction, entity recognitions, and all the thing. And actually, it's widely used in the industry, so it's more about the interoperability. We have a lot of people that know what's the classical knowledge graph is, how to process them. We just need to make this data a bit more accessible, and I really believe that artificial intelligence really could help us to make the data more interoperable, because then you could query and ask the questions to the data in a plain English without the special knowledge of some special query languages or special semantic tools that only the data scientists know. So the sovereign data, it's not about identity. Identity you need when you want to share and claim that this data is yours, or claims that somebody told something about you. So the sovereign data is not stopping on the credentials. It's just the beginning, and you have a lot of data that could be paired with credentials, but should not be in a this credential form. And we still lacking good solutions for persisting, storing, and processing such kind of data. Because, for example, the most democratized platform for the sovereign data right now is the decentralized web nodes that offer us the possibility to make the verifiable and owned data beyond the credentials, that you could practically store any kind of blob in a DVN and give the access to other people with the use of the permissions and the deities and all other things. And it's open a lot of the use cases that are beyond of the verifiable credentials. But the biggest challenge was the deviance, unfortunately, that when you need fine-grained access to the data, I would say not the access but the query of the structured data, like for example querying the knowledge graph with the graph oriented query languages, or querying something for more like SQL. You simply couldn't do it on the DVN. So that's why we're looking for the more local fast structured storages that give us the possibility to query, store, persist, and process the personal knowledge graphs. And I made a lot of researches. You could find a lot of videos on my YouTube channel about the personal knowledge graphs, about the persistence, and actually I have a couple of techniques that make it possible with the tools that practically every developer knows how to use. And actually, it will be a lot of benefits for everybody if we will use this model together and discover together. So if you have questions about all these topics, just write me the message, share this video, contact me, follow my Medium blog, and let's do something fun in a sovereign space and personal knowledge graphs together.